Bachelor of Science in General Engineering. Karima Shihabi, summa cum laude. Munya Al-Hilali, summa cum laude. Karim Filali, summa cum laude, absent. Samir Labbar, summa cum laude. Nabila Sharqawi, magna cum laude. Iman Halil, magna cum laude. Usama Ktiri, magna cum laude. Omar Maouni, magna cum laude, absent. Rita Amour Tijani, cum laude. Salim Bilyazid, cum laude. Munir Bouzuba, cum laude. Hisham Shidami, cum laude. Mohammed Al-Abdullawi, cum laude. Hassan Kittani, cum laude. نزهة الطوضي بن شقرون كوم لاودي. عبد السلام أفيلل. أحمد علمي العروسي. يوسف أقلال. فيصل بلامين. نزار برادة. سهام الشامي. المصطفى حدو. مهدي رافعي. هند صقلي شريف. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much and congratulations to all our new graduates.
Would you please remain seated for a moment, please? Would you please remain seated? Thank you. Our program is not yet finished. Excellencies, distinguished guests, faculty and parents, ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker of today is Mr. Jérôme Bendé. And before giving him the floor, I would like to present you a brief bio sketch of Mr. Bendé. Mr. Bendé is currently director of the Analysis and Forecasting Office of UNESCO, an office responsible for the future-oriented programs of UNESCO. Its activities include, in particular, the organization of the 21st Century Talk series and the 21st Century Dialogues, which aim at raising the awareness of decision makers, the media, and the general public to the major challenges of the future. Mr. Bendé is born in Friedrichshafen in Germany in 1951. He was educated at the École Normale Supérieure de la Rue d'Ulm at the universities of Paris 1, Panthéon-Sorbonne, and Paris 4, Sorbonne, where he obtained an MA in philosophy in 1972 and l'agrégation in 1974. He devoted the first part of his career to teaching and research, with special emphasis on the history of ideas. Since 1977, he has also been a journalist and a contributor to the cultural departments of several newspapers, such as the Quotidien de Paris, the Nouvel Observateur, the Nouvelles, Globe, and Le Monde. Monsieur Bendé joined UNESCO in 1984, where he has taken over several positions until the present one. Mr. Bendé has also many publications. I would like to mention just the latest 3 books, Cultural Pluralism, Identity and Globalization in 1996, Représentation et Complexité in 1997, and Ethics of the Future in 1998. Mr. Bendé, please.
Mr. Chancellor and members of the Board of Trustees, Mr. President of the University, Your Excellencies, the Ministers, Wallies, Governors, and Ambassadors, students graduating today, their parents and their friends, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor and a privilege to be with you today on the occasion of the first graduation ceremony of Al Hawaii University. Mr. Federico Mayor, Director General of UNESCO, has asked me to convey his warmest regards to all the eminent personalities who are present today, and all of those who, in various ways and with a great deal of foresight, have made this day possible. I think, of course, in particular to His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince Sidi Mohammed. I'm greatly honored for the special privilege of delivering this keynote speech on the occasion of the university's first graduation ceremony here in this beautiful city of Ifrane. I know that this young university is very dear to the heart of His Royal Highness, the King of Morocco, who has desired that Al Hawaii University should become a true center of excellence to train the elite of this country. In view of the quality of Al Hawaii's academic programs, of a high level of its faculty, of its particular distinguished leadership, this enterprise looks already very promising. When UNESCO was established after the Second World War, its founders intended to build, alongside the community of nations, a community of minds, to use the prophetic words of Paul Valéry. Like the founders of Al-Hawaiian University, UNESCO's founders considered essential that it should serve in the future both as an international beacon of light that would encourage cooperation in all branches of intellectual activity, and also as a beacon of hope which would contribute to the advancement of the ethical goals to which the international community had committed itself: peace, intellectual and moral solidarity of mankind, prosperity, freedom, and justice. They thought, in their wisdom, that the advancement of knowledge and the advancement of ethics should go hand in hand. This is not an easy task. The world is a more complex place today than it was a generation ago. The students graduating today, our children, the children of our children, will need to be able to face new and unprecedented challenges, such as the growing asymmetries in wealth and development between North and South, as well as within societies, the spread of poverty, the new threats to the global environment and to human health, the very unequal access to education and to quality education, and to the potential of new technologies, the problems of global governance and democratic participation, urbanization, to name just a few. These challenges are not just technical. They are not like the millennium bug, which can easily, at least let's hope so, although at some considerable expense, be erased from computer programs with a few keystrokes. These challenges are also political and ethical. They require vision and anticipation. They require political will. They require a renewed commitment to the principle enshrined in international instruments such as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This is one reason why the Club of Future-Minded Citizens and Decision Makers seems to be increasing by the day. Many international organizations today, many national governments too, are setting up future-oriented programs and strategic planning mechanisms or foresight mechanisms designed to identify emerging global issues and trends, to analyze their implications, and to devise policy recommendations. They are calling for a new vision. Very recently, the United Nations General Assembly has endorsed at its current session Mr. Kofi Annan's proposal for the convening in the year 2000 of a Millennium Assembly to prepare for the 21st century, and it has at the same time proclaimed the year 2000 International Year for a Culture of Peace, for which UNESCO, and most particularly its Director General Federico Mayor, has paved the way. Anticipation, if I may say, is catching on. There is a reason why it is and why it should, and this is the subject of my presentation today. On the threshold of the 21st century, societies suffer from a dysfunctional relationship to time. A major contradiction is at work. While they need to project themselves into the future in order to survive and prosper, they must increasingly act in real time and adopt short-term strategies to cope with the challenges of globalization, for instance, while facing the onslaught of new technologies. There is no escape, it seems, from the tyranny of emergency. Financial markets, the media, politics, especially around election time, and development aid all march to the same tune. The horizon of modern societies has shrunk in time and in space, Entire systems of thought and long-term representation schemes seem to have collapsed, and with them the references to the idea of a common project. This culture of impatience has ominous consequences. All over the world, the citizens of today are claiming rights over the citizens of tomorrow, threatening their well-being and at times their lives. Far from a passing phenomenon, the logic of emergency is fast becoming a permanent feature of our societies and of our policies too. And yet, as evidenced by the contradiction of humanitarian aid or of the struggle against unemployment, it is at best unclear what impact this emphasis on short-term and emergency measures can have on long-term problems. How can we rebuild a sense of time in an age of accelerated change and globalization? I think that we first need to rehabilitate the long term. One way is to proclaim, and most of all to put into practice, our solidarity with future generations. The social contract model establishes reciprocal obligations between contemporaries, but fails to provide for future generations. An ethics of the future would, on the contrary, broaden the ethical community to encompass future subjects. Some will argue that future subjects are not subjects because they do not exist yet. I will answer that the Roman law, for instance, recognizes in the successoral field the right of future generations, since it's wisely protected the right of future children not yet born. If we do not act in time, future generations will not have the time to act at all. They will become prisoners of processes that will have become unmanageable: population growth, degradation of the global environment and the local environment too, growing inequalities between North and South and within societies, rampant social and urban apartheid, threats to democracy, ubiquitous mafia control, increasing gap between info-rich and info-poor. These growing asymmetries affect the daily lives of hundreds of millions throughout the world, especially in developing countries. 1/4 of humanity does not have access to drinkable, safe water, and more than half of humanity does not have access to satisfactory sanitary facilities. 30 million persons die each year of epidemics and infections caused by polluted water. 2 billion people do not have access to an electric grid. What can possibly be the meaning of information highways for them and of this computer society? This university, of course, is a good example of a spread, you see, of a computer and highways, you see, electronic highway society. But we must think about those who are absolutely on the sideway and excluded. 1/5 of primary school-aged children do not go to school in the world. How then are we going to reduce in real terms the number of illiterates in the world? Tomorrow, as Mr. Mayer often points out, is always too late. With this in mind, the last session of the General Conference of UNESCO issued a declaration on the responsibilities of present generations towards future generations. Another way to rehabilitate time is to promote long-term vision and policies. More and more, especially in the West, the acceleration of change is used as an excuse to legitimize our blindness to the future or to claim that the future is unthinkable. The French futurist Hugues de Jouvenel noted that the culture of the long term remains, I quote, the only context in which genuine development strategies can be implemented. Nearly 7 years after the 92 Earth Summit in Rio, the Agenda 21, the program of action adopted by the conference, remains, for the most part, a dead letter. When 2 years ago, the international community met to assess the progress made, some spoke of Rio +5 in the UN speak. Shouldn't we rather have said Rio -5? How long can we afford the luxury of inaction? What price for inertia? Isn't it time for an ethics of the future? Rehabilitating the long term means that social actors and decision makers will have to stop tinkering with the present and start anticipating. Great transformations do take time. 1, 2, sometimes several generations may elapse before we reap the fruits of our labor. The fate of future generations will increasingly depend on our ability to enrich the present with a long-term vision. What is required is not entirely new. The ethics of the future also is an ethics of farmers to some extent. It consists in transmitting a heritage. The reinforcement of anticipation and future-oriented strategic planning capacities is therefore an absolute priority for governments, international organizations, both governmental and non-governmental, scientific institutions, social actors, and the private sectors. And I'm delighted to see that in Morocco, this feeling now seems obvious, and you see anticipation is developing. Education will play a key role in this process, starting with basic education. Mr. Jacques Delors reminded UNESCO in the report of our International Commission on Education for the 21st Century that we also need to build a learning society in the 21st century, one which will value lifelong education for all, through formal education, of course, but also through vocational and professional education and training, and through a vast field of non-formal education, permanent training, and self-learning. Education, again, lifelong education for all, is the best long-term investment for societies because it is the key to the solution of all other problems. With it, our students will not simply be trained for something, they will also be prepared for anything. Whether today students decide to become biochemists or surgeons, philosophers or historians, managers or academics, they will all need to be prepared to take up new challenges, to ask new and bold questions, to open up new avenues of inquiry, to continue to learn throughout life, to anticipate on future trends and future needs. This will be all the more necessary since many of them, probably the majority of the students even here present today, will not exert one single profession throughout life, but will have a multifolded career. You see, I've got already 3 professions, but I believe that in the future, the students, you see, may move, you see, to more professions throughout their career. They will need, accordingly, the master to master the art of what Edgar Morin calls complex thinking, la pensée complexe, and I would add the art of complex action. We will need most of all to look ahead to the ethical consequences of their decisions. The future is a question of values. It has been recalled this morning by one of my predecessors. Building an ethics of the future entails a radical evolution in our understanding of several key concepts which have undergone a rapid evolution. These 3 key concepts are responsibility, precaution, and heritage. Responsibility traditionally relates to past actions only. It now relates more and more to future actions and should increasingly be turned towards the distant future, as the German philosopher Hans Jonas suggested in the responsibility principle. what has been entrusted to us by nature and by past generations is fundamentally fragile and perishable. Life, the earth, the city itself. The cities are mortal, of course. Our sense of responsibilities toward them is a condition of their survival. But now we know that not only the cities are mortal, but the life on earth is mortal. Our sense of really, indeed, no institutional system can endure if it is not supported by a will to live together. And when this will collapses, says Paul Ricoeur, the political organization unravels, and quickly. In similar fashion, the principle of precaution, affirmed at the Rio summit in 1992, has now become an accepted staple of international negotiations. Precaution is a necessity in an age of rapid scientific and technological change and at a time of doubt and uncertainty. Strategic planning, foresight, and anticipation must indeed learn to take into account the unlikely, the uncertain, even the unforeseeable. It is precisely because the future is not written somewhere, you see, that we must anticipate. In a word, we must learn to manage long-term risk. For example, the significant warming of the Earth's climate, the desertification, the extinction of species, and decrease, you see, of biodiversity. Precaution means renewed emphasis on ethics and politics in all fields of human endeavor, technology, and science in particular. The use of modern biology, for example, needs to be considered a matter of ethics. As you well know, this is the task of the International Bioethics Committee of UNESCO. The third point, you see, and the third key concept, you see, of this evolution I evoked is heritage. Heritage is something we build each day. Notre héritage n'est pas précédé d'un testament. Our heritage is not willed to us. A leading poet of the resistance to Nazism, René Char, wrote after World War II. The role of heritage in human affairs is not so much to transmit objects or to perpetuate values, as it is to establish a dynamic sense of solidarity between generations, that is, to give a meaning to the perpetuation of the human species. In this perspective, the meaning of heritage now extends beyond stones and artifacts. It encompasses the intangible and the symbolic, the ethical, the ecological, the genetic. With this in mind, UNESCO's General Conference issued at its last meeting a very important declaration, the Declaration of the Protection of the Human Genome and Human Rights, which has also just been endorsed by the United Nations General Assembly following the initiative of France. And this instrument is already the standard-setting instrument of reference in the bioethics debate at the regional or the national level. Heritage thus becomes a foundation of human responsibility toward future generations, provided it is conceived as a living treasure. For, I quote the Belgian philosopher François Host, in the absence of a link between the past and the future, says François Host, any reference to tradition is doomed to appear as an ideological conceit, or worse, as a regressive fundamentalism, to quote Mr. Host. These principles and others should guide our thoughts as we approach the 21st century. As Blaise Pascal wrote, travaillons donc à bien penser, voilà le principe de la morale. Let us endeavor to think well. here's the principle of morals. Between the social contract and utopia, we must steer a path that will bring closer to us the horizon of the future through the designing of intermediate projects still within our reach. Caring about the future also has profound policy implications. Whether in the West or the East or the South, the crisis of politics has coincided to a very large extent with the crisis of the future. Time has come to remind ourselves of Max Weber's warning that the proper business of a political leader, I quote Max Weber, the proper business of a political leader is the future and responsibility toward the future. The business of politics, in other words, is to manage time, to shape time. An ethics of the future is quite simply an ethics of time which rehabilitates not only the future itself, but also the past and the present. Indeed, our behavior toward the living is usually highly correlated with our behavior towards the past and future generations too. For instance, those who would have us ignore the plight of the poor and the excluded are usually the same who would have us turn a blind eye on disappearing languages or indigenous people or ignore the hole in the ozone layer. How could we therefore oppose the exercise of solidarity toward present generations and toward future generations? An ethics of the future is not an abstract concept. It's not another piece, you see, of your United Nations rhetorics. It has very concrete implications in terms of the policies we need to implement in the face of challenges crucial for our survival as a species, and I would say for the future of our societies and for the future of our nations. To mention but a few, I have in mind such challenges as eradication of the poverty, narrowing the gap between the haves and the have-nots, and the availability of water for everyone, the need, of course, to slow down population growth through the education of women in particular, and to, of course, to advance the society through this education of women, and the risks associated with global warming, which call for drastic improvements in energy efficiency. And this morning, I've heard before me another excellent example of implication of an ethics of the future in the business field. It has been evoked by Mr. Benjeloun when he mentioned the social rating of companies, not only in Europe, I must say, but also now in the States, as a matter of fact. And I think this social rating of companies shows that ethics of the future can go hand in hand with economic success. Since contrary to the, I would say, to the cynical received idea that, that a tough policy within the enterprise and you see the breaking, you see, of trust within the enterprise would bring major profits. Many studies now demonstrate, you see, that those companies, those transnational companies, which have the best social policy and the best human resources policy, are also the more profitable. You see the prices of their shares increases. It's a very recent study which has been published by Le Monde in particular. And to close, an ethics of the future, will in fact be useless. It will be useless if it is not translated into educational, scientific, technological, economic, financial, and political measures, laying the foundations for a genuinely human, sustainable development. For millions of human beings, an ethics of the future would bring the promises of the future and some very concrete results closer to the present. A leading personality, a leading figure, you see, of American public life, said, it takes a village to raise a child. As Craig Kilberger, who founded the organization Free the Children at age 12, put it, I quote Craig Kilberger, it also takes a child to raise a village. To paraphrase a famous quote, the future delayed is the future denied. Thank you very much.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, faculty and students, ladies and gentlemen, would like to ask you for your patience for an additional 10 minutes, just about the time we get first to hear a representative of the faculty of Al-Akhawain University, and then a representative of the graduating students. I'm calling now on Dr. Amin Ben Said. Doctor, Dr. Amin Ben Said is an associate professor of computer science, and he will say a few words on behalf of the faculty.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة على مولانا رسول الله. Your Excellency, advisors and ministers of His Majesty, ambassadors, Wali and Governor of His Majesty, President of the City Council, and distinguished guests. Dear Chancellor, dear President, and members of the Board of Trustees, dear Vice Presidents, Directors and Deans, dear colleagues, dear graduates and parents. In an ordinary graduation ceremony, I would have addressed the graduates exclusively, but this is no ordinary event today. It has been an honor for us faculty to serve and strive for excellence at Al-Akhawain University, a university that is the idea and the graduates exclusively, but this is no ordinary event today. It has been an honor for us faculty to serve and strive for excellence at Al-Akhawain University, a university that is the idea and the making of His Majesty the King Hassan II, a university he has described as a dream he has always nourished that has come true with the help of Allah, a university that embodies the brotherhood between him and His Majesty King Fahd of Saudi Arabia. I'm truly honored to speak in this ceremony, which comes under the patronage of His Highness Prince Sidi Mohammed. But I confess, I'm also nervous today. Especially nervous after a talk by someone with the scientific stature of Mr. Bendays. Dear Chancellor, dear President and members of the Board of Trustees, a few weeks ago, the Al-Akhawain University community had an opportunity to meet for the first time with its Chancellor. Today, it is hosting the whole Board of Trustees. We are overwhelmed. We hope, and you have given us reason to be confident, this conveys commitment on your part, and we perceive it as a real opportunity. Dear President, we have a lot of work to do and long ways to go. Still, I would like to tell you today, it has been a joy to work with you for the past few months, But then again, you have been so close to us, you must have felt this already. Dear colleagues and friends, it is an honor for me to give the faculty talk today. I am flattered. I feel especially privileged to represent many of you whom I consider my seniors, whose scientific merit is that of my own professors, and who have taught me a lot over the past few years. Thank you for your vote of confidence. I hope I will earn it today. Dear Vice Presidents, dear Deans and Directors, you belong way earlier in my speech, but I had to talk about professors before I addressed you with the following. Thank you for bearing with the rest of us for the past 4 years, while you've had to build the foundations of Al-Akhawain University. Dear parents, thank you for your sacrifices. Congratulations are in order for you today. We have been delighted to serve you and your loved ones, and we hope we have lived up to your trust. أيها الآباء والأمهات، شكراً على تضحياتكم. نقدم لكم تهانينا اليوم. لقد تشرفنا بخدمتكم وخدمة فلذات أكبادكم. نتمنى أننا كنا في مستوى ثقتكم. As I take a moment and reflect back on the past 4 years, I would like, excuse me. I had to talk to students, right? So I might as well do it. Dear graduates and friends, it is for you that I'm standing up here today, and I thank you for standing up for me. You have acquired the precious ability to learn on your own and the invaluable skill to communicate proficiently. In the process, you have helped building Al-Akhawain University. You now stand ready to move on and embark in your professional career. Our heartfelt congratulations go to you today. As I take a moment and reflect back on the past 4 years, I would like to say to you, on many occasions, you have made us proud of belonging to the same institution as you do. You have done it consistently through your charity association and through your other associations and student government and through your sports teams. Most noticeably, you have done it on a happy occasion by volunteering and organizing from start to finish the first ACM computer programming contest for the Arab and Africa region. You then went on to win this contest and qualify to the World Finals. You have made us proud. You have also made us proud on a tragic occasion by helping the people of Al-Hajb during the September 97 affliction. You will be sorely missed around here. You have earned our friendship, and you have done it through your spirit of compassion, volunteering, serving, and helping others. My message to you today is, please take this spirit with you to your workplace. I will borrow words from the 1988 US presidential campaign and say, I would like AUI graduates to be a kinder, gentler breed of graduates on the market. To those of you that are versed on American politics, notice that I have not made any promises about taxes, so you can feel more comfortable reading my lips. Dear graduates and friends, on the job, a few things will be different for you. For instance, you will have a boss, you will have customers, and you will have to manage a career. Depending on the constraints and the nature of your new work environment, you may find it harder to keep up the spirit of volunteering, acting as the servants of your customers, and helping out your coworkers, and you may become ready to give up this spirit. I would like to give you today 3 reasons to fight back when you reach this point. Reason 1, fight back and keep up the spirit for the sake of your country. As the world is moving into the era of full globalization, it has also been switching to service-based economies. Many foreign companies we will have to compete with have for a few years now been working on the use of advanced information technologies towards optimized business processes, customer profiling, and mass customization. To beat the competition, these companies aim at producing services for each one of their millions of customers as if they knew each one of them personally. Sure, Moroccan firms will also have to incorporate advanced information technologies into their business process in order to face the competition. And sure, as a computer scientist, I am an advocate of using advanced information technologies for Moroccan companies to offer first-class service. However, at the end of the day, for improved service, it takes the bright man and woman who exert themselves to serving their customer, and for improved efficiency, it takes the bright men and women who strive to help their co-workers. This requires keeping the right attitude and spirit. If Morocco is to become competitive in the global service-based economy, you have to fight back and keep the spirit alive. Reason 2. Fight back and keep up the spirit in order to prosper in our kinder, gentler national environment. The criteria for success in Morocco have evolved. It takes more than just being good to be successful in Morocco today. In order to be successful, you must also help others. Excuse me. I'm making this assertion today based on an increasing number of indicators. They include the activities of His Highness the Crown Prince in heading the campaign against poverty and the Ramadan Iftar campaign. Indicators also abound in this very auditorium today. They're overwhelming to the microphones too. Indicators also abound in this very auditorium today. They range from the commitment of AUI's Chancellor through his financial group BMCE to build 100 schools in rural areas, and they extend to the social orientation of the Gouvernement de l'Alternance. You have to fight back and keep the spirit for your success in Morocco today. Reason 3, fight back and keep the spirit for your own sake. My commencement ceremony talk would not be complete today without a quote from a great thinker. So I searched for one to support this third reason for you to fight back and keep up the spirit of volunteering, serving, and helping others. I did not have to search for long, and I found something even better than the thoughts of a person. It is a saying that my mother clipped for me a few weeks ago. She thought I would be interested. I think you would be too. It is a hadith of Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. Please forgive me to read it in Arabic first. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يحشر قوم من أمتي على منابر من النور يمرون على الصراط كالبرق الخاطف نورهم تخشع به الأبصار ما هم بالأنبياء ما هم بالصديقين ما هم بالشهداء إنهم قوم تقضى على أيديهم حوائج الناس اللهم اجعلنا منهم وصدق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Here is an approximate meaning of this hadith. Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, says, there will be people from my nation who will be resurrected on tribunes of illumination. Their faces will be so illuminated, they will impose reverence on those who see them. They're not prophets, they're not the most righteous, and they have not died in the path of God. They are people who serve and help others. Dear graduates, congratulations again. We wish you the very best for your future endeavors, but remember, keep up the spirit of volunteering, serving, and helping others. Thank you very much.
this was not in the program, but as we honor our graduating students, we can't resist but have a thought for the late Samia Sabahi, who we have lost in the events of Al-Hajb. And I would like now Sofia Shihabi, as a representative of the graduating students, to take the floor.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على مولانا رسول الله النبي الأمين. Mr. Chancellor, Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear parents, fellow graduates, good afternoon. I am thrilled and honored to stand here today as one of Akhawain University's first cohort degree holders in a day while celebrating the culmination of our efforts and the crystallization of a dream. Looking 4 years back on January 16, 1995, the day His Majesty inaugurated the university, we were all filled with pride and excitement to embark on this new endeavor, reflecting on a journey that was about to begin, expecting the best and ready to accomplish the impossible. Our gathering today is a proof this dream came true, so congratulations to you all. Throughout this magnificent journey, we have lived together moments of sorrow and frustration, overcoming homesickness, personal worries and tribulations, pulling all-nighters in crowded computer labs trying to finish some projects, while thinking about this unfinished swimming pool, those insipid well, oh, those insipid mashed potatoes we had for dinner. But we also had our moments of joy, relishing the splendid nature of Ephraim, celebrating personal and collective victories, or moments of vicarious pride after a successful theater play, a hot sports game, a challenging Olympiad contest, or today, the celebration of the first graduation ceremony. Yes, we did it. We have shaped the history of Akhawain University, and the unique experience we've been through have definitely shaped our lives and will forever be engraved in our hearts and memories. I believe 10 years from now, we will still savor every moment, and we will hope to relive this unique experience. Probably not ourselves, but perhaps our children in the future. Who knows? So, do you see the end of the tunnel now? Believe me, it is just beginning. But if you made it here, you can make it anywhere. Your first year of work will be defined by the unexpected. No one's first experience is exactly the same. I have myself graduated 2.5 years ago. Al-Akhawain University was a springboard for me to initiate a successful career in my area of expertise. My dream came true, and so will yours. I have already heard many of the positive marks my fellows have been making out there in their respective workplaces. I've also been pleased to follow the progress of our university with the launching of the Student Government Association, the career placement, new international events, and an ever-increasing number of exchange programs with internationally renowned universities. It is quite hard for a new university to achieve excellence. I believe we did achieve a good part of it. And I'm sure the advice and suggestions of the graduating students will be instrumental in the advancement of our university. So let us all coalesce into a powerful force through our alumni association. A fundamental tenet to success is hard work, cooperation, and ambition. So please let us seize every opportunity to transcend our own limits. No mountains too high for us to climb, no rivers too wide for us to cross. Let us be up to His Majesty's vision and expectations. Let us meet the challenges He set up for us and for the university. Once again, congratulations. Good luck in your future endeavors, and thank you.
And now, a final word for the president of Al Akhawain University.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, faculty, parents, and now graduates. At the end, I would like to thank all of you for attending this commencement. But I have to make some thanks. This ceremony wouldn't have been possible without the assistance and mobilization of some persons. Allow me to name first His Excellency Mr. Abdel Fattah Fraj, who is from the start of the university standing behind it, and who mobilized himself for at least 2 months to make this ceremony a success. Thank you very much, Sir Abdel Fattah. I would like to name too Mr. the Governor of Ifran, who is permanently and effectively with us. Thank you very much for your help too. And we have our board, who is supporting me very hard. And our meeting of yesterday showed me that I'm not alone in this university. We have a board, and this board is behind me, and of course, with our university. Thank you very much. And finally, the last but not the least, I would like to thank particularly Vice President of Student Affairs, Dr. Abdelatif Ben Shrifa, who was today our maître de cérémonie, and who, with the organizing team and our students' government and our student volunteers, made a wonderful job. Thank you very much. My last word will be for our graduates. It will be congratulations and good luck. And thank you very much.
Excellency,